Just a few. I think most people are probably in the same. Yes. We have a mess.
Oh, you, I see. You don't. Yeah, I know, you didn't mind the bigger one. Yeah.
You don't have an extra pen.
No, Vincent is, he has a kind of, you can have you work it.
What's that?
Thank you. Would you like some sweet tea?
네, 자매, 자매.
That's nice. I can't have caffeine at night, I'm sorry. Yeah, but I love
For those who are online, thank you for your patience. There was a prayer ceremony for those who died in the earthquake in Chile. And so we're beginning a little bit late tonight. We hope that you're still there. Because we're starting late, we'll just do the short mandala offering on page 16 and the refuge prayer. Saji Buki Joshi Beto Jama Riva Priji Nide Genpade Sange Shingo Mite Buwai Tukunana Jima Chukar Sho Jetsu Nama Nama Jiraji Chukuruka Jese Jijine Chita Zambe Jese Mama Sanye Chuki Jama Dusu Yedam Guru Mandamana refuge prayers on page 22.
三业就当作业就难了，讲究把个带你就是大地去做一辈所难的，说话的去三业就二手，三业就当作业就难了，讲究把个带你就是大地去做一辈所难的，说话的去三业就二手。三业就当作业就难了，讲究把个带你就是大地去做一辈所难的。说话偏去三业如二修。我老说他，我，你说你去在那路了呀？你两个人做？阿嘞。你说你去在那路了呀？你两个人做？yang yo tsu zom je la ya ni chi ka so le piti sana mi trailing sana mi no khane tin tin chi ya chung ba la ya ane ka bo chung san namal ni la 70 years.
So first of all, my greetings to all of you for the 2025. We're all healthy and to be able to gather here to discuss the holy teachings of the Buddha, which is very fortunate for all of us.
ane ta dirin ko zu je chi ya de ta ma rang zu lo de sin na me do ane pe ja xi jing ko bo lo de je bi xi jing de ane na rang zu lo jang chi ya des.
The subject matter that we will be discussing today, as I was requested by a few students, now representing Nagarjuna's Surinika, which is letter to friend.
다 디 말아도 전주를 렌치면 나라야 아니 마사지 좀 연대 좀 말이야 동보텔이야 아니 최공준 받으면지 제법을 채워서야 직체 아니 당하는 그거지리지 최기 채워서야 직체 아니 채워니 내게 채워라 니세지 달 채워서 안 담방을 열로마지다 뒤와서 디데체니 아니 사지 마 시점 나게 다디 기사 아니 기사스 남주 아니 최송기 망보지기 사지 배제 가르치비나 사지 대신하는 마티 나게 요레스
So all the teachings that we find will be taught under the four headings that we find that we are all familiar with. The stages to the path to enlightenment, which begins from the greatness of the authors and the greatness of the teachings and greatness of the sequence in which that is taught for the disciples.
Instructions.
Yeah, instructions, yeah. Actually instructions.
말한소 드린 사제 다가랑 나네마 아니需要게 배제지기 있어 이나야 다 최공준 받으면지 제법을 채워서야 돼 다들 배자데 막좀 많이 제법보데 아니 공부를 그랬어
So the purpose of the authors to show that how authentic the teaching is, in which, in this particular context, the teachings was given by with Arya Nagarjuna, who is the teacher, the authentic teacher, who taught authentic teachings of the Dharma.
Gombolotov de Ani Sanjay Rani ke Lungten Jelaya, Jawa Shajatuba Rani ke Lungten, Ani Jawa Shajatuba, Temba de Maombana, Temba de Manyamdu de Tea Soba Nangaris, and Sanjay Shajatuba, Korangi Lungten Naje, and Sanjay Shajatuba Kunyang Eledene, Ani Lord Shibjagi Jela, Chembe Jibutamajeres.
So Nagarjuna is one of the sublime beings who actually restored and revitalized teachings of the Buddha. As he was prophesied by the Buddha himself. During the Buddha's time, as I said, when the teachings of the Dharma undergo degenerations, and there will be a great person who will emerge in this human realm, where he will restore the teachings of the Buddha. Where he specifically mentioned that after 400 years of Buddha's parinirvana, in other words, Buddha's parinirvana, so in which Nagarjuna was born, after Nagarjuna was emerged in this human realms after the 400 years of the Buddha's parinirvana.
Ani Gomboluru Gita, Namdarsina, Rujusina, that Jibushi Mojis, Kisangazo, Kishi Landamba, Namdashi, Nimanji was study, Tidepomoz, and the Ditch.
So I will not go through a detailed historical background of Nagarjuna. It's very long and it will take a long time to finish. As even when I was giving the 8 verses of training the mind, I was supposed to give the condensed historical background of Kishinari Temple, but it still took for me to finish. It took me 2 sessions to finish. So therefore, I will not take that long, and I'll try to condense the historical background of Nagarjuna today.
Oda Gomboluru de Gombo, Tomba Shaja to be long demba nashi, Ani Loshi Chilaya, Ani Chigin come de la Tumbe Maz, Sanjiki Dembe Golashune, Ani Nalentagi, Keba Chimbucha, Kebi Tukicha, and Tinane, Tanda, teaching it about Chin Yamde Galaya, Ani teaching it about Telaya, with the Tuni Rimbata, Pedango Ribaniris. Ani with the Tajatumba Shajatubogi, Chabu Pumburi, Song Shabagan, Ani Kappa, Tinimi, Chubo Telaya, with the Tuni Rimbata, Pedango Ribani, Venane, and with the Tuni Rimbate, Pedango Ribaniga, Machi, Yabe Kapaya, Kumbulu Pay, Ani Naleta Kojonang, Dejala Kebe Puchibacha, Kebe Puchibacha, Mataya, Tene Kongi. 다자게 domba게 송샤죠 무지 동익이 좀 마치질이 남대들 공기 탐제 야스 오마를 조절해서 봤제 지금감데 최다 진보 연습차 연습차를 다 되시고 그랬어요. 근데 산지기 때문에 티바지 산지기 때문에 단 티바지 때문에 배디 자가나 배디 냠도한테 공기 야스 그랬어.
So as we mentioned earlier, that Nagarjuna emerged in this human realms after 400 years of the Buddha's parinirvana. And he came to this world at the time of the degeneration of Buddha's teachings, and particularly the teachings of the Mahayana. So he is one of the main figures who actually revitalized or restored the degenerated teachings of the Mahayana that Buddha has taught. That when we talk about teachings of the Mahayana, the teachings of the Mahayana can be classified into two. Explicit teachings of emptiness and implicit teachings of the stages of the path. And all of these two teachings were actually generated when Nagarjuna emerged into this human realms. It is therefore Nagarjuna went to Nalanda, where he has gone through vigorous learnings of all the sutras and shastras, and composed numerous teachings of the Buddha, and he wrote many commentaries, the well-known commentaries, and his writings are the sixfold reasonings of emptiness. And then there are many other teachings, many other, compositions that he has composed. And so it is therefore, he has become one of the most learned person in this Nalanda University. In fact, he was recognized as a crown jewel of the Nalanda universities. It is thus he is an individual who has to revitalize and restore the teachings of the Mahayana. So the noise coming from there, so is that a problem?
ngāgi shūngu tēne māmbu tsē yores, ngāgi sāwa tūbi kōla ya, āni rīngā tā, tōrchē tā, tōrchē, tā tēne pēchē shūngu nā kūgu yu mārē, ngāgi shūngu tēne pē māsi māmbu tsē yores, kōng kēwa chī kū shīw chē rēs tīngā nā, āni tōngi kū kōla tā, tēnzē, āni ūma tsāwa shirā kū tsēbe, ūma rē tū chūla sō kū tsē yores, āni yāng mēngi kōla ya, sōchē yālā kēpa lō sō kō tēne tsēne, pē māsi kēpa chī mū chē rēs.
So not only that Nagarjuna actually restored the Mahayana Sutra, but also the Tantra. He wrote many teachings on Tantras, such as the one well-known Tantric teaching that he has written is the Rimwa Seven, which is the stages of the path. Prayer lamp for the stages of the path. Prayer lamp for the stages of the path. And then also he has written many other texts for texts of astrology as well as the medicine.
어떤 흉들도 참말로 지금 록전 지야다 대주대 공기 나비 흉다 아니 뭐데 돈이 좀 받고 댄샤비 흉들도 록전 지야다 냠래 지야라 근데 직접이나 아니 매직 대가라야 다가랑 리지간데 지 대가 갈라 갈래 잡 담볼로 촌제 되는 냠래 맞잖아 아니 지 나랑 좀 남길래가 지셔다 근데 지디가 초바다 되네 아니 요야 지깔에 커버렸어 지좀 나기 흉다 너무 돈이 좀 받아서 록전 지와다 냠래 지와라 두주 망보지 담보 비어랬어.
So teachings that he has given, we as the followers, not only that we receive the teachings and gaining some kind of intellectual exercise, but rather we should receive the teachings and use it and make this in the practical use rather than just receiving the teachings. Of course, when we talk about teachings of the Nagarjuna, there are many teachings that we may not be able to receive all these teachings and follow those practices because he has numerous teachings such as teachings of Sutra, teachings of Tantra. So we may not be able to receive all of this, but whatever the teachings that he has given, if we follow that and receive the teachings and practice it, will become useful.
얘네 다 견제만 임배야 콩기 아니 코랑기 자갈 호조로 핀난도 점발이야 아니 랑갈이야 아니 지가수레다 김산 교부 지금 부부지 통니 데라야 아니 라리를 따네 아니 계란 마음바 개고 차기를 있을 텐데 농대나 대체대 제라야 아니 부부디 콩기 농대나 바나 진짜네 아니 개보 차고 되게 개보 대주 선보세야 체네 되게 차네 아니 다대다 콩직비 지가수레 촉보다고 타니 무차네 되게 체네 아니 콩기 개보되라 봐 아니 이게 트리니다 좀 전에 마땅네 콩나 마땅네 되게 제약이 아니 배자들이 뭐지 요래 스타디 배자들도 아니 지금 알아서 남주 지딩게 처배나가 냠래치야 다 콩기데 마 송야보라 개보라 마 송바 인자 알아서 남주 처배나가 냠래치야 지 이제 미지게 대냠래치 벌라 아니 가서 그래 구조를 리고를 좀 먹어 되는데 남주 처배나라 냠래치야게 아니 배자들이 오마르 제트와 아니 단다디 CBD 안데네 기보소디 어디데 제네야 기보 대저 선보라마 나샤 this.
So on his way to South India, it says he met a very young, in other words, a child. He met a child, and he read the child's palm, and where he predicted that this child will become a leader in the future. In turn, the child who was predicted by him was eventually become a king of that region, and the particular region in South India. And his name was Surabhi Patra. The king Surabhi Patra. And the particular text that we're using today is the text that is written by the Nagarjuna and sent this as a letter to the king as his friend to teach the Dharma. And he not only that, he also sent some other texts to this King Surabhi Patra, the texts such as Precious Current, and then there's another text as well. And so here, now this particular teaching, the teachings that's given by the Nagarjuna is something that is very convenient for all of us to practice. It's not just, it doesn't really tell us to go to isolations or go to a solitary retreat and go somewhere where there's no one and isolate yourself from others. It is not said that at all. So this kind of teaching is very suitable for all of us as a layperson, so that we can apply these teachings, we can practice these teachings on our day-to-day life as being in the mundane existence. We'll be able to follow his teachings without, leaving yourself, somewhere else as something that's completely isolated, as it is suggested in other texts or other teachings.
Oda odin sonde zambalaya tadi ko boloru ke cheba de me ke che ta de chu ji cheba de sonde zambalaya da de tanda ngazo shiding de res kena ba ya de shiding de ta shiding de ke nang de de kandide de res na ani shiding de na lo sung jebe tanda de nyamlen cheba la ya ani yijing ji ke chaba che ko me dos ya lega da to ba le dang je la ya khang be na de ne gom kya ko me dos and then now the Yamlen Chibala, so some Namu Kawa, Lega Karichigina, Soba Karikigina, Tedam do Tini, and Yamlen Chia Yedeki, and Tanda Yapo, and the famous Yapositus.
So with this, we have completed discussions on the greatness of the author, and now we will begin to discuss on the greatness of the teaching itself. the text or the work itself. So if you look at, you will find this teaching is something that is very suitable for us. It doesn't suggest you to be a bhikshu or the fully ordained or the novice. It doesn't require any, vows to be received, such as fully ordained vows or the novice vows and so on. But rather, nor it actually suggests that you have to leave all your household. It doesn't say that at all. It's just by being wherever you are, and you can still practice the teachings of the Dharma. And this is how suitable and so convenient for all of us to be able to follow these teachings.
어디에 선대도 말이야. 아니 다디 제법의 체화다 최의 체화의 바로 차비 계제체. 아니 단 예세 지역 저기다 내 데이터다 말한게 맞지 뭐지다 대세 자신 말도 이나의 강충 중지체네 대나게 된다도 좀 대세 자체 아니 개나바게 가서래 강충 중지 아니 지금 자고 있는 가르치고 있는 쟤네 아니 마음을 초래나야 아니 냠래 영향지기 아니 저 심규를 생각하래 아니 편도야 그래와 있어.
So with this, I have completed shedding little lights on the authors, the greatness of the authors, as well as the greatness of the teaching given by the particular author, such as in this particular context, Nagarjuna. And now the next will be how to listen to the teachings and how to teach the teachings. Although I myself have not learned it, and nor I have realizations on these teachings, I will do my best to elaborate as lucid form as possible, so that you can follow the teachings, not only just receiving the teachings, word by word teachings, but rather the whatever teachings that you have received, you will implement those teachings in your day-to-day practice.
지당거라 아니 지 낭철이야 냠 지금 로저를 제차수나 아니 낭철도 현대기기 지 미터부지 간사터부지 이미나 지당게 아니 가서 그래 이 기독 능이 가르친 거 이미네 sembalology 샤도기지 그거 요래서 그러니까 우리 지 청소나 빼마세 지 sem바카도 가고 양 강의를 지 청소나 빼마세 돈도 가고 갈래칸도 가고 딜레 많이 바로와 강의 가르치는 코르도와 양 야보 가르치는 데라야 가조시라면이 sem바데 베디 지고 우체네 대도비지 딘데지 다 sem라 청소나나 아니 최근에 용기 요래서.
So here the practitioners of the Buddha, the practitioners of the Dhamma, the practitioners of the Dhamma should have a very stable mind. The stable mind that when something happens to us, something careless or some kind of unfavorable circumstances, when one is undergoing such experiences, one should not be overwhelmed by that. Nor one should be overly excited when something good happens to us. Whether one is experiencing favorable atmosphere or the unfavorable atmospheres, regardless of what kind of situation that we may experience, we should be able to maintain stability of one's mind. With this kind of stable mind, can then be able to, build the spiritual path or the stages of the spiritual path.
Today, in the Malayangaranzo, sitting down, Omar in Jetingwa down, Junju down, Ani Lojong Tiki Malasoba, Tizu Tsama, Kewachi Bujigi, Ani Yinga, Gang of the Tom Shadow to the Maris, Karisana Tizuna, the Tondatu, Kumbulu down, Ani Tanda Junju Lachasha in the Kise Shivalada, Ani Lojong Tiki Malachasha in the Kishi Landama, Konanzu with Yamlenche, Konanzu with Simulaja. 코나주비 툴라야 검점네 누버트엔데 와데 아니 신에 베제가나마 마티네 단다데 마티네 아니 가랑주 진주절마 담샤교지리 마도지기 베디 닝아 받은데기 케바지 못은데기 닝아게 겐자 받은데지 말했어.
So teachings that are written by those great masters, such as Nagarjuna, Asanga, Kijilani Tamba's 8 verses of training the mind, Nagarjuna's letter to a friend and precious current, as well as the Shantidevas guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life. Those are not just a beautiful, writings or just beautiful poem that we enjoy to read those poems. This is not that at all. But rather, those are all are suggested to be implemented to our day-to-day practice. And it talks about how do we practice, why should we practice? By practicing those, how can we actually make our life, human life, meaningful and purposeful? And those are all of those methods and the skillful means can be found in those teachings given by those great beings.
What in the Malayadam, Te Tonda de Garanzogi, Kashi Nigaji, Kashi Shikachi, or the Laya, gave us somebody and then Mamma told the Shua Yisra.
So it is therefore, it's fortunate for all of us, I as a giving these teachings, and you as listeners, and myself and all of us here, having this opportunity to discuss on these precious teachings, which is very fortunate for all of us.
Ani ta the Tandana sitting the Jagaragi Tselaya, Ani Sushida Leka Sine. Jagagetena Teres and Purgela Ani, she be ding.
So now first we'll begin with the actual title of these teachings, which in English it is letter to friend, and Sanskrit, an original word, language that is actually written these teachings is this Surita Lekha, that's in Sanskrit, which is translated in Tibetan as a Shepiting, which literally means letter to friend.
What is it in Somalia? The Ani Nazo Purganala Jagarne to Yusha Yogi, Ani Pejatamolo Golaya, Ani Jagargi Kegi, Tendi, Pejagola Yovache, Te Yadi Jumzen Carresana, Ani Tiki, Ani Tenji, the Pearl of Somshayogi, Tendeki, Pearl of Somshayogi, Kulume, but the dance, Jagaki, Lijakin, to Grua Yinsia, Chiche, lots of what to do. Nidilaya, Ani Tigala, Lejarki, Yadi, Ani Maumana, Chizu Chabaco, Ani Chigikala Page, Ani Lejaki, Kela Chesum, Telaya, Papsha Yak Chedo, Papsha and Maumana, Chizu Chabaco, Chesum, and Lejaki. Sundima Rangi Koyaki Chedo and Tidechini, Jagali Jaki Meguyadi, Judeta Niyures.
So when we look at all those teachings that is translated into Tibetan from Sanskrit, it will always begin from the Sanskrit word in the beginning of the teachings. And there are two main reasons why they are losing it, why they are, using the Sanskrit word right from the beginning of this teaching. Is because it actually shows that this teaching is not something that is written and composed independently in Tibet or some Tibetan scholars, but rather it is translated from Sanskrit to Tibetan by the great translators. In other words, it has, if we were to trace this teaching, it can be traced to the teachings of the Buddha himself. This is some one reason why we have this, the Sanskrit word right from the beginning of these teachings. And then another reason is because this language itself is said to be a very, very precious language, the Sanskrit language. So that if you will read this language right from the beginning of our text, it will leave an imprint in our mind stream, in our stream of being, so that we'll be able to, we will become disciples in the future, disciples of Buddha Maitreya in the future, because the Buddha Maitreya will give the teachings in the future in the Sanskrit language. So therefore, when we read the language Sanskrit right from the beginning of the text, will really enables us to leave a positive imprint within one's stream of being.
아니 벽에는 시비 등이 있어야 되는 시 있어야 되는 거라서 초보다 기계다 근데 가서 하는 거의 왜나는다 단다 시 있어야 돼 초보로 거기요레스 아니 띵 있어야 돼 데이터에 배제돼 이 단다 대주대 아니 공부로도 코랑기 초보 자시 아니 기본 대주 상분을 파 꾸르셔야 돼 띵 있어야 돼 꾸르버게 된다 이거 꾸르버게 된다 인도 정말이야 코랑기 자시 안 기본 대주 상분을 파 꾸르셔야 돼 이게 손자 안에 딜려야 배제기 고조 딜려야 시베딩이 시딩스네 딜레즈레스 벽에기 된다네.
So the Suri Delnika in Tibetan, it is Shepe Tingik, which is letter to friend. She in Tibetan word here can be referred to teacher, friend, and then it also some other references as well. But in this particular context, she is understood in terms of, she is refers to the friend. And ting is to send. To send, and yik is a letter. So therefore, sending letter to friend. The friend here refers to Nagarjuna's friend, the king Surabhipatra, and this is the particular text Nagarjuna is written for his friend King Surabhipatra.
뭐야 대체 다들 딘지의 자가르게 깨네 자가르게 자게네 벽에를 추 규율이 교육을 놓자와 되게 교차 세네 안에 차지적이 요르스티 잠베시노 교발라 차세로스 어드레스 데리 다디 교차 제바게 추 교육을 차제베고 바디 가르스는 지당가서 벽에 넘어 산제 가지고 정말 내가 페바조고 가르치지 제베이나 담보 군주라 차세야다 최고비야 된데 지기를 요레스 다 되는데 아니 로자와게 대추 교육인데 아니 잠베시노라 차세고야 경제 가르스나 아니 대주의 벽에는 주 교발이야 바르제마 연다 교르타 침박의 영향의 제도 아니 잠베시노 교발라 차세브레스.
So now the next here Gurja, which is meant the salutation by the translators, and the translators homage, in other words. Translator is paying homage to his deities. And so in this particular text, the translators paid homage to the youthful Manjushri, Jambeshwari Gurva. This is the Manjushri Kumara in Sanskrit, to whom the translator actually pay homage, or wrote the salutation verse, paying homage and writing the salutation verse by the translator is because, well, he is actually translating the text. It actually pacifies or remove the obstacles so that he can, carry on his work of translating the text without facing any obstacles or hindrances.
다 ngazu tambo jambe shunu ju wala cha so ju ku cha de cha de da shung ge de da de la ya ani go bo lu du gi ge bo de je sam bo la ya ani ta chirang ge de de na ge da de nyem bo re ya bo chen de nyem bo re sa de chi chi sam bo de nyem bar ku wa sa de 어디 연대 장신 그 가기 네 있으라 대화 시비 송예 내정회 선남 뇌래 파배 양대다 중세 직대 표기 셈바리스.
So now the salutation verse that we talked about earlier, the salutation verse or the homage, which is homage to Jambishunigriva, which literally means the gentle and glorious youth, or the Manjushri Kumara Buddha, that is in Sanskrit, to whom the translator actually paid homage. So having paid homage, then now we will begin with actual teachings of the legend refrain, which begins from encouraging the listeners to listen carefully to the whatever teachings, whatever the verse that are written by the Nagarjuna, encouraging his friend in this particular context, his friend, the king Surabhibhadra, to listen very carefully to these teachings, and that the listening verse, encouraging the listeners to listen carefully. For this, the verse here we read, the first verse here we read, is that the same? I have an English translation of the verse, but is it the same, or I don't know? Let me. Look at it. Yeah. It's different, yeah.
Can we hear your translation as well?
Yeah.
Can we hear your translation?
No, I'll read this. I am so happy to see, look at that, and Alexander, and I'm very happy with
Okay.
it. Yeah. I enjoyed his translation. Yeah. For you with a nature of good qualities, who have become worthy through constructive deeds. Please listen to this verse in noble manner, which are compiled in short for the sake of instilling, it's in parentheses, and an intention for the positive force. Those come from following an explanation of a blissfully gone Buddha's speech.
이 전다도 말하셨는데 지금 친구 좀 먼저 따다 되기나.
Kela Karen,
전다도 말하셨는데 알베. 연대다 지 교회다가는 세대 친구 따다 되대. 되대. 디나라 디다다 이나다 연대 장신 세대. 디 연대게 장신 세대 좀 말해 공부도기 교회되지 상고라야 마 표현하냐 제부 되지 상관없이 요데 연대랑 진실도 아니 다 로중 유게서 말에 다 나라도 폐기를 되잖아 연대다 때문에 아니 개와 체육이 개와 외에 제부 되지 상관이야 마 표현에 다기 니스도 공부를 그러게 연대랑시 개회스도 제부 되지 상관이야 연대랑시 개회스 마 표현에 다기 니스도 아니 공부를 다기 대월의 시비 손예 렌체면서 산지기 산지기 소런나네 중대요 고볼로로 랑게 라소체는 소리네스 산지기 소런의 정외 아니 선남 뇌에 쓰는 말이야 마음발이야 아니 개부 되지 상보 키랑게 되게 아니 심지도 속에 선남 야 사야글래도 타바다 탐지집에 고반도 야고 선남 사야글래도 아니 대화식비 손일의 중에 파괴 양대다 산지의 송양대다 중시의 직대면서 되는 말이야 책용용제와 책용용지가 되네 대저체에서 뎁스된 거라서 대저체 봐서 그러와 최기 셈바리스 아니 기본 대저 상보 계란기 마음바야 선음 소야게 두버딜래도 tumba스 balada maranga so maombe duram sigirwa wadi tumbate ledo ani sanje ge songle chungwe sanje ge songte da ani ma to zi nyung na la sene an kirang la songi yi ani kirang ge de nyero na kirang ge nyeba wa bares.
So here, right in the beginning of this verse, the first line, it says, "For you with the nature of good qualities who have become worthy through constructive deeds," it's referring to the king himself. So what Nagarjuna is saying is now, you have these good qualities, and you're suitable to listen to these teachings, or you're receptive of these teachings. So it is therefore as this teaching. And then it says, please listen to this verse in noble manner, which I have compelled. It's Nagarjuna saying, I, Nagarjuna, is compelled in short for the sake of instilling, and for the sake of you, referring to the king, Surabhadra, as well as whoever is fortunate enough to receive the teachings and can follow these teachings. An intention for the positive force that comes from following explanation of the gracefully gone Buddha speech, which actually says, it is not something that I independently compose these teachings. It is the word of the Buddha, and I'm, serving as a messenger and conveying the message of the Buddha to you. So therefore, it is worthwhile to receive the teachings and listen to these teachings.
세계 동부도 도스 잡체. 세계 니버데 지달 디시 구수 신뢰 재배장. 신뢰장 기본 제장 용비 개배주스 디시 다기 닝아 딩냐 탐주 죄라 델레 매니지스.
The second verse here is it actually indicates that one should not have one should not condescend these teachings, and in other words, one should not have a contemptuous attitude towards these teachings, because it is the teachings of the Buddha. So it is therefore for this, the second line here we read, just as the wise venerated the statues of the blissfully gone, referring to the Buddha, even out of wood, regardless of how it has been made. Likewise, although this pottery of mine may be deficient, please do not scorn it, since it's based on an expression of the hallowed Dharma.
어디 다 시간 시위는 시간 감마디니 배당 아 오게디 된다드레스 아니 감마디 배칸을 제나 아니 산지 좀 된대기로 대화시백이 구수 막고 말아서 저구 샤샤교데 아니 세르당 무다 좀 붙일라서 샤샤교데 대절하다 아니 인다 이 참말로게 아니 자태모 자다자 아니 근데 신랑 돌아서 된대기 막 샤샤교데라야 아니 케바도 좀이야 가라시 안에 추바비 차세 된대지기로 왔어 신당 돌아서 막 가리샤이나 산지 구수 인사회 시구라 아니 rinpoche 샤샤죠 있나 신당 돌아서 샤샤죠 있나 근데 지금 지금 자침부지기로도 대 rinpoche를 자침부지 교대라다 아니 뭐보들라 가서 공부들 마다와지 된대 지금 말아봤어 신당 돌에 있나래 아니 생외 있나래 가르르지 샤샤죠 있나 자침부지니 케바도 저기 아니 자책이로 왔어 추바지기로 왔어.
So this is presented. This presentation is given, accompanied by the analogies. The first, it says, just as the wise venerate statues of the blissful icon, even out of wood, regardless of how it is made, or how it has been made. So regardless of their material, the materials that is made out of the statues of the Buddha, wise will always venerate and pay homage to that statue, regardless of what it's made out of, whether it is made out of wood, mud, or any kind of materials. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter with the shape of that Buddha's statue, as long as it is a Buddha. The wise will always venerate the statues, and also, pay homage to that statue. And then, in the same manner, it says, although the poetry, it says, referring to himself, my poetry, is not really a very beautifully done, or the scholarly done, in other words. It's a deficient, it says, is clearly mentioned, but please do not scorn it, because since it is based on expressions of the Buddha's teaching, expression of the Buddha, in other words.
어디 배대나시 아니 배대나시 아니 공부루루 그런 게다 시딩기 대나라 좀 사주기 닝아데 아니 지 벤자야다 근데 야보마 정말 전에 아니 야보 중마선으로 와 책디 야보 중마선 딩에 양스디 이 야보지 근데 중마선도 연습을 봐 이나야 대나게 된다데 주제 댄샤교데 아니 담배 취기 된다데 댄유스 대나라야 댄시유스 담주기 산지 중딩이 송나라 송샤교 담주기 된다데 대나라 댄샤유스 근데 인도 잠발라야 아니 대라야 지 야보면도 쓰는 메라마지 대라야 마지 다들 야보면도 쓰는 말라우스 대나라야 담주기 된다 댄시유스 지난직이 야보 중마선도 대나게 된다데 담주기 된다 이베 대라야 아니 야보면도 쓰는 말라우 담마송스.
So just as the statues of the Buddha, regardless of what kind, regardless of how it is being made, the wise pay homage to it, right? Similarly, my writings over here is not beautifully done, and very poor, way of writing. In other words, it's just very deficient. However, one should not scorn it, because it actually, describes the teachings of the Dharma. It actually conveys the message of the Buddha. So therefore, one should, even though the verse is not beautifully done, I haven't been able to do it beautifully, but the actual meaning of the verse teaches the Buddha Dharma.
다디 공부루르기 지 캥경보여서지 근데지레마도 공부루르기 개와지 못 된데지레 아니지 근데지 지 니가게 됨좀해보다 되게 배제된 니다 자원이네 요마르도 이나야 고랑게 킹중과 전에 다들 야고 중마 송선이 되지 마 송부리마도 이 지메제버데 자원이네 말레스 거기 단다다 대가서 가서 진주나나 기세시 원래 되게 송이와 가서 대신 됨좀 해봐 달라면 다 생각해서 말해.
So, it shows a humility of himself, that Nagarjuna, because the Nagarjuna is known for such a perfect writer. This is the best writer among all of those great scholars of his time. So it actually shows his humility by saying that my writing is not that good. In other words, it's not beautifully done. It says, this my poetry of mine may be deficient. So it actually shows his humility. It's not something that who is not be able to write, beautifully, but he's well-known, great writer, prolific writer in his time.
다대jelaya 지지 숨버들이샤 대 투버 첨부간의 인구시 있어 최기 투수 다양 취미지 있어 또대 레지 근데 외진이 체가라니도 지디 미지라스 대양 제가 당분이디 된다든지 아니 어머니디 빼들이샤스.
So again, this third line, the third verse, also gives the teachings to shed the lights on the importance of not just saying that, well, I have already received the teachings of the Buddha. I know about it. But, it presents, although that you may have received the teachings of numerous times, the teachings of the Buddha numerous times, it is not appropriate to say that, I have received the teachings of the Dharma. You should always try to listen to the teachings of the Dharma time and again, even if that is the same subject matter. You should always listen, and contemplate and listen to the teachings, even though it is the same subject matter. This will be, explained in the third verse.
대가르스고에서 다단지 응응게 측제돼 나라야 안에 다 대칭면에자 되나라야 산지 좀 된데기 아니 송샤욕이 아니 당주유 아니 계란기 제자되면 매래 제가 소리 지 멤버에서 말하네 아니 냠내 치고를 송차와 다 근데 이미 나왔어요나 아니 제가 소리 기본 대주 선물 계란기 둘러야 아니 산 계란기 산지기 최탐지 챙기러 왔어 기본 대주 선물 계란기 아니 산지기 까만 보지 계란기 투수 취자를 계란기 최근 된다만 보지 계란기 현사로 왔어 아니 내 된다 봐 쇼고야면도 되나라 마 쇼고야면도 계란기 현사로 왔어 근데스 나비 이나서 와 아니 계란기 투수 취자를 당에 되는 마 가르치는 쇼고유 계란기 투수 취선주가 된다지 당 양교 계란을 가르치는 쇼고유 나비 이미나 아니 계란기 투로 취参与기 아니 담배 최대다 아니 양교를 야세를 줘야다 양교 주 세부 영향의 체도 아니 계란을 이슈고 유스 때나 아니 도와 도 카르보틴데기 도 카르보타 도 델스도 도 카르보틴데기 주샤뇨 이사를 강바데라야 강바데 고랑신 까보로 가지나 도 까보 주샤뇨 강바데라신 까보지를 봐 다 델라야 다외고 포위 이미나 양교 델레 까르도 그러봐 다외고 포위는 꼭 까보디 이베가나 양교 까르도 그러봐 제자 산지 중된대기 송샹교기 송럽대 좀 망보지 기보 대주 상부 키랑게 툴러다 취요래 이나양에 단다 센립 지하체도 대툴러 취샹교의 양조야 공부줘야 체도 아니 대 단다 히딩디 마시고 유스 어디든 다 되죠.
So therefore, the verse, the third verse of Hebrew is, although a proportion of the resonant words of the great sage of the Buddha may already have entered your heart. Isn't something made of limestone, made even wider by the light of winter's moon. So it's again here it says to his friend King Surabhibhadra that you may have listened to the teachings of the Buddha and you may have known many teachings. You may have contemplated and practiced many teachings of the Buddha. By reading my teachings again, my writings, my explanation of the teachings of the Buddha will even make your understanding of teachings of the Buddha clearer, and it will clarify whatever the teachings that you may have received and you may have known in the past. So therefore, it says it's that here the analogies that he used is that take the example of fine, house that has been whitewashed with chalk. Although it is naturally white, the light of the moon at night stacking it makes it even more intensely white. So this is how the teachings, that my experience of teachings, if you were to read my teachings, it will make clearer. The words of the teachings will make clearer to you. It is therefore you should read what I have written here.
대사 년바 그보다 안 잠바자 탐제버서야겠다. 지금이만 존다. 되네 마체네 아니 다시 뭐되나 내용도
So now we were actually, from the verse 4, we're actually touching the actual body of the teaching, or the actual teachings of the subject matter.
대사제디 지금 나 요거면 돼.
맞아.
네. 좋아. 사제도 먼저 돼.
그럴 때 영어는 사실 되게 차단하비.
라서.
야 이게 근데 숨도 떠서 쓰는 집에 예 그래서 예를 봤을 때 예를 봤을 때 강한 예 나비.
알레라서.
이게 되게 나비를
알레라서. 라서. 다 될라야. 다 쉬운 거 될라야 되냐마 아니 니바 담방거로 숨스체를 말하게. 아니 기부숨지 남 도르데 마사체. 아니 개바시에 마사체. 다 기부숨세야 되게 기부숨지 기부숨지 남 도르데 마사데 기부숨스데 좀 말이야. 아니 다 낭추인냠 렌체제라야야 가서 그래. 낭추인냠 렌치기 되려야 아니 기부람딩 타숨저버지 간사들려버지 받치버렸어. 아니 대치당데 간데레스나 아니 제 다르게 대화 좀 맞춰보지. 제 치마디 아니 건도 하다 미고 반도 이게 간사되려야 아니 다 최치긴 안에 지 로도브레디 중시 송상 화마에 기부 중스타브레스 다 되네 기부 딩스야데 아니 개와 치명도 하면 고반 좀 맞에 코바 디나라야 대잖아 하다 미고 반통나 가야 민도 아니 양양요마 예선을 통구도 다 코바 디나라 되게면 텔레타르베 타바지 토바지게 이제 타바트니 전에 최치기 되려야 기부 딩스기 요레스 되네 땅가라 타바 좀 돕나야 아니 라라야 통면에 진지장배 심지 탐지 대코베나라 유샤네 나라 지부 타바 되니 제가 되라다 아니 가서 그래 대 아니 기부 시대에 버터버지 레샤 근데 이제 좀 말아야 아니 심지 탐지게 되도록 나랑기 만유 나게 심지 탐지게 되도 아니 타바자 마세 남지 개별 법은 토바 지기 예스 삼로데 단제 최치기 되라야 아니 기부 침보선이 기부 숨 딘데스네 파샤 그래서 기부 숨세 되나 기부 숨
So actual teaching is given under these three headings. The first, it says, the brief teachings on the three scopes. And the next, it says, detailed explanations. And following the practice, engaging in the practice by following the meaning of these teachings, what it says. So now, first, let's go back to the first headings, which is three scopes. It says the brief teachings on the three scopes. What are the three scopes? Three scopes here refers to the small scope, medium scope, and the great scopes. What is meant by small scope? The small scope is the individual who is engaging in the practice to mainly to gain high rebirths in their future life, in their next life, in other words. The medium scope is not only that they long to achieve higher rebirths in the human endeavor realms, but also to free themselves from the samsaric existence. And so a practitioner who is following such practice is said to be the middling scope practitioner. And the great practitioner is not only that he or she is actually having he or she is trying to free from samsaric existence, but also to benefit all other sentient beings. It is because there is not even a single sentient being who has not been one's own mother. So therefore, I must recall their kindness and repay their kindness. In order to recall and repay their kindness, I must attain complete state of enlightenment or omniscient, a state of omniscient mind. So therefore, I can work for the welfare of all other sentient beings. And such practitioners, the individual who engage in such practice, is said to be the great scope, practitioner of great scope.
뭐야 다시 사제 강의 굉장히 송샤요 이 강의
최선 선생님.
그래서
사실 러비를 이제 됐어요. 또 선생님이
아니 이 강의 선대요
안가는 뒤여봐 교사다 세상 시행에
그래서
생이 되어봐 생이 되지 근데 교육이자 근데 제가 제래 근데 숨도 쉬는 거는
사제의 권전이 가는 영화로
컨트롤 영어
다 어디에서 다 얘기 배제적인 조제나라 막 가르친 거잖아 어디도 기부 담보들이야 기부 숨지 남대 돌대지 제마 로로지 셰버들 돌대지 되네 아니 기부 숨지 남대 되네 기부 숨 기부 중무 딩 친구 숨지 남대 막 개버체는 맛이 되네 대제라 아니 수수기 지 세미나라 냠렌치야 주 돌되는 시 아니 어디에서네 다 배제디 된다 용조 어디 사제디 숨나가 숨도 시기도
entire this subject matter of the teachings will be explained under these three headings, the headings that we mentioned earlier. The brief teachings on the three scopes and the detailed explanations of three scopes, in other words, and then following the practice, engaging in the practice by following the instructions. So those are the three headings. So as I mentioned earlier, that all those teachings that we find in this text will be explained under the three headings. In other words, within within these three headings.
사제들만 모르지랍시나 안 되죠. 다 대난에 나고도 고전들 사제 매자 다 담보 기부 중국이 안에 람데다 세치마르바 모두 함이 고반 되던 얘기 가사되기 냠술의 이야기 디 응원들을 쓴 그래서 응원들어야 돼 기부 중을 람데 단단을 쓴 그래서
So now let's begin with the teachings on the practice of the small scope.
대난에 아니 기부 중을 난 대난에 안에 넘버 산제베 치기 라야야 청구라 통마시야 돼 가르레스나 점주 예외 돈에 안에 넘버 산제베 치기 지기 요레스 귤 점주 매선나 넘버 산제베 말에 점주 예선 넘버 산제베 대인장 당부 점주 대 송유 요레스
So here, to become oneself as one of those practitioners, practitioner of small scopes, a practitioner of the medium scope, a practitioner of great scopes. To become either one of those practitioners, one should know how to take refuge in rituals. To become oneself as the followers of the practitioners of the Buddha, and without which one will not be able to become one of those practitioners.
대치제에 가르에서나 당부 제전주是吧 제전주 냠래 지야데 간데스레스나 토마 점주조 집에 제전주 냠솔리 주세데 대 간데스레스나 gelwe sangye chedan gindedan dongdan chujin la dongdan chujin laji temba ju rabdo gaze teda soso yi yonde choji jeso temba yes chije oderesha.
So here now first it talks about importance of taking refuge in rituals, to become one of oneself as one of the practitioners, either one of those scopes, the practitioner of this other one, small scope or the medium or the great scopes, but one must begin to become one of the scopes by taking refuge in rituals. So it is therefore the verse 4 here we read, verse 4 here we read, the triumphant has proclaimed 6 objects for continual mindfulness: the Buddhas, the Dharma, the Sangha, generous giving, ethical discipline, and the gods. Be continually mindful of the mass of good qualities of this.
어디에 산지게 대가져야 돼 가르쳐서나 아니 장기 아니 최념내 야보지 지기이나 아니 최송바보 아니 산지 좀 된데 아니 대송의 최 대념내 지기 긴두고죠 디제를 잡수 두고 요레스 디잡수 두고야 좀지 가르쳐서나 빼나 차샤위나 아니 미 나랑도 미지 나자 첨부지게 내접 첨부지게 답수나나 나자지 나서나 아니 델다 암지 야보지 캐보지 전에 장기 나자最두게 암지 제가 전에 다 암지디 땡고 여러 왔을 때때 대 나자다네 아니 걔라 나자데 다야게 치도 아니 맨데 땡고래 맨데 땡고래 아니 결혼된 데케고래 대치고 말했어야 돼 거기 암지 칸데 라바 나신지 전에 아니 나랑 저기 대치고 여러 왔어 아니 대제배 맞에 아니 거기 데 땡반 나신치기 아니 나자라야 교육이 딘데치기 아니 맨제게 다 내어주기 미지 그거 여러 봤어.
So here now Buddha is the teacher who taught the Dharma, and the Dharma is the one that serves as a medicine for us to cure the sickness. In other words, Buddha as someone, the teacher who actually prescribes the prescription, just as the physician prescribes the prescription to the sick person. And similarly, the Buddha actually is one who actually gives the prescriptions and then prescribe the prescriptions, and we should take this prescription and then by following the prescription and take the medicine as as one's which is the dharma. So here now then when the Buddha prescribes the prescriptions, and there should be someone who actually gives you the medicine, someone who serves you and gives you the medicine, and who actually gives you the advices of how to take medicine and so forth.
배디나신 아니 나란소 단다 가르치기 요래 나란소기 개와 통마 말반에 단다 파도를 야지 소소야 기부요 야게도 배즈만 시우지 배지 미래 개발에도 이날에 아니 소자 조불에 개발에도 이날에 나란소 양보도 기부요 야게도 배디 배즈 슈체를 단다 사바데 자원이네 마용마야 디 가르치베레스나 나란소기 아니 삼로당당 원에 근데 전에 안에 나라조려야 지 대화 탑두지 마연다 안에 동네 마연아서나 동네 규모제 용돼야지 안 가란족이 대화 체다 노 대화도 노네 안 중대 교제레스.
So as you look at ourselves, and we know that right from the beginning of our day up until we retire at night, we all look for happiness. We long to achieve happiness and overcome suffering. And just as that this life, our present life, has our time longing to achieve happiness and overcome suffering, our past lives have gone through the same experiences of longing to achieve happiness and overcome sufferings. However, if you look at ourselves and an experience that we have not been able to achieve the happiness that we long to achieve. Why did this happen? It's something we have gone wrong. And there's nothing else that we can pinpoint other than our way of thinking.
제가 되게 나란조 삼로단다 망고지 티 노베 왕게 아니 생나려야 되자 시단 디모라 소바 뉴모 망고지 나란조 대왕라 쇼네 아니 나란조 동네 망고지 중자 대 나란조기 르르비 나자나신 대 나란조 생긴나게 나자지 자기 요레스 생긴나게 나자지
So it is all our wrong way of thinking. A wrong way of thinking is the one that actually preclude or that prevented us from achieving lasting happiness, the happiness that we long to achieve. So it is because of this wrong way of thinking give rise to all kinds of negative thoughts and emotions, such as attachment, aversion, and closed-mindedness or the ignorance. And those are known as the sickness of our mind or disease of our mind.
어딘데 순간 대 산지 중된데 아니 멤버다 타와 아니 수분 나자 세계 암지단 타와데 셈나게 나자 세계데 아니 덤바 산지 중된데 레스 아니 콩기 아니 기랑게 섬로단다 대파가 된 노샤 아니 란진진기 섬로 파단지 신진진기 셈 자주 셈도 세 땡고도 아니 단지 말을 방고도 대님보라 다음에 동반이 최고고도 아니 되자시단 팀몰라서 뭐 방고도 마 송야게 송디 아니 맨다 잡아레스 콩게 송디 가나서 냠레를 채워되네 아니 가나서 생긴 나서도 바타도 그러와 대 나란조라 대냠레 채워라야 될래야 믿도지사 아니 법에 긴디지고 그래 제자한테 아니 텐데스 전에 아니 경례 구조스 문제 지나데 텐데스레스
So, just as the physician prescribes prescriptions to cure our physical illness, in the same manner, Buddha prescribes us to cure the illness of our mind. And his prescription is his teachings. The medicine that he gives us is the teaching. Teaching is the actual medicine that actually cure our mental sickness, such as attachment, aversion, ignorance, jealousy, and so forth. And particularly that Buddha had mentioned that one of the most provider or producer of unhappiness is self-cherishing mind, along with self-grasping. So therefore, Buddha stated that now in order to cure or overcome self-cherishing mind, one should cultivate cherishing for the welfare of other sentient beings. In order to overcome this self-grasping mind, one should cultivate wisdom, realism, selflessness. So this is the teaching, the Buddha's speech, in other words, or the instructions, serve as a medicine for us to cure our mental sickness or the mental illnesses. So therefore, in order to do that, we need a companion along the path. When one is, being on the journey of spiritual path, one needs a spiritual companion, which is the Sangha. So therefore, with this, we're actually going through the identification of what is meant by three jewels. The Buddha, the teacher who gives the teachings, and then Dharma is what is the teaching that he has given, and then the Sangha is our companion along the path, our spiritual path.
아니 드림 듣는다가 졌어. 아니 드림.
So here, Prabhupada is not going to stop. Take your questions and answer today.
No question?
제마 들었지.
So we'll take next week the question.
I don't know if I'll remember that one.
So we should say the dedication prayers. On page 23 and 24, and continue with auspicious wishes on page 28. Tagi jini sanve gewa de lena ruwa kuma kamen anche varji suru sandamai teme Saji uye yoshe vitora anjika de de gevadi sage shindu mide ruwai tuku nana shina sho Yewa kuntu yanda lama dan cheme chigi pema lunju sada wangi yonze ramzole toji changi ruwan turo sho Ilam guru lena menta nangye yami Jitsu lame kuze rame chinanda ka tine chuchu yamada Losa tembe jeme sasungye Seta kuni kuji Nagri rawe kore shinangu Dewa maru jume Chere sewa tinzin kyaso Shabe siti padu kuji Chabel pavu Cheda kema na kulo Nangode
That's me.
That's
That's
all.
us.